Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first episode of my podcast called Local Legends. I am sitting here with Jordan Walsh, known as Tempest in a lot of online spaces, and he is one of my co-organizers for Ironrid, which is the tournament that is run right here on NJIT's campus.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Tempest. I'm a TO from New Jersey. I typically run stuff in New Jersey, of course. I run one of the biggest events on the East Coast, and I run the other biggest event on the East Coast. And yeah, that's more or less who I am.
So let's begin. How did you first get into fighting games? What is the origin story there?
So there is like two little routes that I took. Had always observed Super Smash Brothers from the outside, and I would watch a lot of their tournaments. And what wound up happening was there's a little comic book shop that popped up way, way, way out of the way. And I used to be a really big Yu-Gi-Oh player. And I went down there and I found it. And they had like CRTs and like an old fridge. They had like one or I think like two monitors, and they were playing Dragon Ball Fighters in there. And they were serious about the game. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had also gone to this GameStop. I had tried to be as outside as I could when I was younger. And I frequented a GameStop, and there's this guy. He had like spiky hair. He looked like Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. His name was Ken, and his tag was Base. And I would see him every so often, and I'd just buy a game and leave, and that would be the extent of our interactions. And my mom was a very social person, and she spoke to him, which made him a little bit more comfortable speaking with me. What wound up happening there is that he's like, hey, you know I travel to play video games, right? And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. I travel to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And he said, oh man, yeah, you should just like look at a stream for Killer Instinct. Like one of these weekends. Just look at the category on Twitch. And I was like, sure. And I looked, and he was there, and he was in top 8 of a random tournament. And I think it was Combo Breaker 2015 that he was like in. I think he made second, or I think he won. But I watched a lot of his run, and I was kind of shocked. I was like, damn, this guy's huge. And from there, I went back to the comic book store, and I played a lot of Smash in the beginning. What wound up happening is the new Smash game. It was a couple years because I was also a Yu-Gi-Oh player. When I finally quit Yu-Gi-Oh, I took a plunge, and I decided to play fighting games. And I started with Street Fighter V and Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U, and I didn't own a Wii U, and I was very poor, so I had to go to this comic book shop constantly, and they had a cover charge for the full day, and it was $5, and you can hang out in the comic book shop. So I wound up sitting down and just picking up one of their controllers and playing. And I went on Amazon and I got a Mayflash, and I guess the rest is history because here I am now.
All right, so now that it's like 10 years since all of that, what is it that got you into the tournament organizing scene? How did you end up in the position that you are now?
That's a funny one. Kind of a few things. So I had this local thought bubble, and I didn't say what happened to them. And another local of mine that also closed down, it was called All G. It was in Bergen Line in West New York, New Jersey. And both of them had closed down. Both of them they couldn't keep up with the bills. And they both immediately, like, just like in the snap of a finger, closed down. And just like that, I lost all of my human interaction. So I decided that I'm going to go to New York to this little arcade in Brooklyn called Next Level. And I was incentivized by my buddy Ken to support locals and stuff, and that's what we call our very local level events. So I'd gone down, I had taken a bus there, I showed up, and the place was packed. And I mean, like, it was insane. There was insanity. There was 100 dudes in basically a little like room no bigger than an apartment, and we were all playing fighting games, and I was so intrigued. It was really one of those like magical things that you could never really replicate, and we've gotten pretty damn close a lot of times. This place is special. There was people that were all over the cameras, and there were people that were obviously famous just in there, and then there was me, and I used to go, and I kind of got over the idolize phase very fast because a lot of these people were just people. And that trip when I moved was 3.5 hours. And again, these spaces had closed down for me, and I just couldn't find a scene here in Jersey. It was a very shared sentiment. So Next Level had closed for COVID. Obviously, a lot of places closed down during COVID, and one of my buddies, Brecken, he was running out of a college, and he was actually more my girlfriend's friend at the time, and I just showed up because I really needed that human interaction that I was craving. So I went there, and we went to this like little crevice in a classroom, and it was in the middle. He booked it every week. It was just like, oh yeah, you just show up and you play, and I just kind of I kind of got better there, and I got that human interaction again. And when Next Level came back, it was such a tight space, and there were so many people that I decided maybe I'll give it a swing. But I didn't have any money, and I didn't really have the resources at the time. I guess it's really funny how life works out, because we were running an event, or at least not we, but my girlfriend here, Myra, she was running an event with my friend Brecken. He just didn't show up. He was hungover, so he just didn't show up at all, and I had to run the tournament, and I guess the rest is history because here I am today.
How long now have we been running Iron Grid? It's been
3 years.
Yeah, almost.
Actually, it's been since 2021, so it's gonna be 4 years this year. And when it comes to like TOing and doing that kind of stuff, I do recommend, like, I just had this conversation with a person from the Bahamas. You'd be surprised how many people are into what you're into. You'll never know if you don't try. I think that's like the most important thing that people.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because in Jersey, I didn't expect there to be people around that were willing to come out and just sit down and play with us. I didn't think there was a local scene, and it's funny because what a journey it's been. And now we organize the biggest event in the East Coast, and it's completely different. Like, oh my God, there's like hundreds of people, and I didn't even know they existed, and you might not know they existed, and and I hope that there are other people that look at us and just bring that magic, that just care. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take like an incredible amount of dedication. It just takes a couple dudes, a couple controllers, and just some random dude's laptop, and maybe like one dude's PlayStation, and boom, you have like a 6-7 man local, right? It's just my opinion. You can run it out of your basement. You can run it out of a classroom like we did, and it is something that's very, very, very special.
Considering we've been doing this for such a long time now, in your opinion, what do you think makes a good tournament organizer? What are the skills that you think it takes for these events to go off well, or to go... I'm not going to say perfect. I don't think any event is going to ever be perfect. And as someone with a background in like performance arts and theater, it's one thing that every show, every event is different, and you just have to kind of like roll with the punches.
So the only skill I say is just care. Really, really, really care about what you're doing. I can't give anybody any advice. There's no one thing. But if you really care, and if you're not like a total idiot, because, there's always those people out there that just don't have it. It just happens. It's okay. But if you really, really care, if you really, really, really want this, you'll get it. It doesn't matter where you are. I literally talked to people in Kentucky. I just mentioned my friends in the Bahamas. I just talked to my friends in North Carolina, and they didn't have a scene until 2 years ago, and I organized the scene because there was 2 Discord servers, and they were separate, and there were separate sides of North Carolina alone, and I was like, you guys, they exist, and they didn't know, and they were both active too, and I connected them, and I just found it through it's a Google search away, and again, it doesn't take much to get a couple dudes and a couple controllers and a couple of consoles down. I think care is the number one biggest thing.
What do you think is like a good starting point, or if you could give like one piece of advice to an aspiring tournament organizer, what would it be? Where would they start?
Don't focus on like the luxuries. Don't focus on the stream. Don't focus on don't focus on any of that. Make sure that the foundation, that you have 2 or 3 dudes willing to bring down their setups to play. Because and maybe I should explain, a setup is, it has Street Fighter, it could be Melty Blood. We joke that Melty's run in the bathroom, and it's one of those things where it's, you really can take a Raspberry Pi or something, or like a really cheap PC, and run it. Like, it does not take a lot of effort, and with PCs getting cheaper and cheaper, and the ceiling of TOing getting lower and lower, I think that with time, every state can have somebody with like, maybe, it doesn't take much. It takes like a few extra $100. You go on Facebook Marketplace and you find an extra PlayStation, or you find, like an extra PC, which I do recommend if you're starting to get PCs.
Yeah, I agree. Initially started on PC because we were just a bunch of college kids in an engineering school with these super high-end gaming laptops. And that's truly how we began. I remember those days. It would just be like 4 or 5 of us. We'd bring our laptops down, play Guilty Gear.
And I mean, and this is for the brand new Jimmys and Timmys of the world that are just coming in. If you want to be professional, I'll give 2 sets of advice. This is if you want to be a real TO, and I mean like PlayStations, tournament equipment. I recommend, if you want to be the competitive standard, you're going to have to bust your ass. You're going to have to save $4 to $5,000. You have to spend like $1,000 on monitors. You have to spend $1,000 on PlayStations. You have to spend on game copies. Like, and that's only 3. I spent $1,000 on monitors. I only bought 6 monitors, 3 PlayStations, and game copies. And that cost me, at the time, over $3,000 for 3 setups. And we are over 16 nowadays. So all of our equipment tallies to about $14,000. And if you really care, you can. I've seen people do it through just sheer force of will. I know a guy, he Uber lifted a bunch of money to get these setups, and then he had multiple PlayStations. I respect him because that was sheer force of will. Like, actually, he really, really willed it into existence. He really wanted it. And, all due respect, I respect, while he's not the most competent, he did have that it factor, the care, the everything.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like doing this kind of stuff is like assembling like a pirate crew. Like, how in the first like episodes of One Piece where Luffy's going and he's like, "Oh, you have a marketable skill that I could use. You have a skill. You have a skill." A lot of the times, this just feels like assembling a team. You and I were mostly like the brains behind Iron Grid. We do a lot of the back end organizing. Brecken's the muscle. We have Fever, who's our computer and audio and video and just everything. With the guy's just like straight up like probably like a wizard or something.
We have 2 graphic designers. We have multiple players that just rep our set, rep our tag. We have people that are literally not included in our crew, but will personally tweet out. And I'm talking, and this is the highest level competition. Evo is like the trophy. It's the end of your journey. And I have Evo champions every week quote retweet our post. I would never expect this. If you were to tell me starting off that I'd have, Incendiate, the Soul Calibur champion, right? You have KDZ, a person I've always looked up to, the KDZ, the Injustice champion. I have Coach Steve himself come up and shake my hand and personally thank me for running events
and hang out in our room all at Frosty Fostings.
Oh yeah. After that, he became one of our close friends, and I do believe like these people are like the hope. This is the end goal, because you're not gonna find a lot of money in this, if any. You're gonna find people, and at the end of the day, you do this for people. You do this for that social interaction, because $14,000 and it's I've gone net negative or literally net zero all these years, and I don't think it's something that you should go, that's an opportunity, that's a market I can corner. It doesn't pay the rent doesn't pay the bills. I'll tell you right now, it is a bill. Just recently, I just had to spend, oh my God, I had to spend $800 between Grand Blue and Fatal Fury. And 2 weeks from now, I have to spend another $500 on Tekken. So just like that, $1,400 down the drain, and these games are not alive. You know, they get like 10 people a week, and we only really, if we on our events outside of NJIT, we only really make five ahead. So money wise, you have to think if we're only getting 10 people at like the bucks an event, we're only seeing 150 a week, 160 a week, and you know this can drop like a $4,000 or $5,000 bill on your head, and you have to kind of pay it. So not for the week, but I do think that this is something that's very special. And the reason that people respect us is because it's such a loss and such a massive undertaking for a lot of people. And I'm very happy with the crew I've assembled, the people that have helped me on my journey. I'm grateful to the other TOs who they don't need to help me, but they decide that they will help me, they'll guide me. I get personal phone calls from the people who run the biggest events talking to me about my event, happy to even show up and just happy to be somewhere where they belong, and it's something that's really special.
Real quick, I do want to backtrack because you did talk a little bit about social media and you being in this community for such a long time. How do you think the rise of social media has affected the scene, whether in like a tournament organizing scape, in even just like a player interaction scope? What are your thoughts there?
Oh boy, man, it is so hard.
I know it's a loaded question considering
it's a loaded question.
We both have like very strong social media presences. We love to make the niche internet micro celebrity joke because it's one thing to be known in this scene, and it's like another that you go to an event and like you're getting stopped like every 15 steps, and walking from one side of the venue to the other becomes now an adventure because you're getting stopped by everybody along the way.
You know, I hate it. I actually, it's funny. I tweeted something making fun of somebody. There's a person that's notorious for like snatching microphones and just going like, "Thank you, mom. Thank you, dad. Thank you, brother. Thank you, son. Thank you, friend. Thank you." Shout outs to homies. It's just like, and I was literally, he lost in a tournament, and I was like, "Sorry, mom. Sorry, dad. Sorry, hood. Sorry, friend. Sorry, sorry, Callie."
And what came out of that tweet? What happened there?
I got messaged by one of the bigger organizers at 5 a.m. to take it down. And I took it down after pretending like I didn't see it for like 4 or 5 hours, letting the tweet run its course and then taking it down. But I thought it was pretty funny. But other people, they want me to be more sensitive to people. But again, they're just people. They're humans. I think if you do something very funny, I'm allowed, especially if you do it on camera, to make fun of you. I don't know. That's just how I feel. I know but yeah. So I got a message at 5 a.m. from one of the organizers. He was like, "Hey, this is not professional. It's very rude. You're misusing your audience.
You're misusing your platform.
You're misusing your platform. That's the word." And I was like, "Well, shit." And I took it down, and I kind of felt really shitty. It was very recent, but it was one of the more recent like social media busting. And sometimes with my crew, even with the people on the inside, they'll send me back my tweets and go like, "Yo, bro, what the hell? Take that down," or "Yo, bro, you shouldn't have tweeted that." Like I've gotten into real beefs because one of my stream runners is like talented, and he had done something very, very, very technical with his computer, and he wrote code for open broadcast software to do something very particular, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is awesome!" I tweeted about it, and people were like, "You ruined it. You ruined the surprise." Like I wanted my work to speak for itself, and I had to take down that tweet too. And I've also just tweeted like something's coming, and then someone immediately messages me, "Oh shit, you should have messaged that. Like why you spoil the Iron Grid reveal?" And it's just like, I'm not talking about that, but I'm glad you guys have me in your heart and mind.
Yeah, speaking of Iron Grid, we are recording this on March 14th. With Iron Grid coming up, I am so excited to finally be back, like, in our element, doing our work. Do you have any closing thoughts before we start like wrapping this up?
If I were to just be the guy, I'm just gonna say, if you really care about what you do, it'll show. There are people that will care. There are people that will um that will take notice. Don't think that when you get talented at a craft, or when you really care about something that just is so minute, it doesn't really matter, right? Don't think that it's wasted energy, whether you're a musician or you're a gamer, or whether it doesn't matter. Just go for it, because the amount of people, my mom believed in me, and my dad didn't. Until, you know, he passed, he didn't. And I will say, like, it's funny because when I began to become successful and my dad passed away recently, it was something that really struck home to me. Was I talked to my dad's boss. My dad's boss said, yeah, he was proud. When he really didn't believe in it at first, but he was so proud when he saw what you were doing, and he saw that you were traveling every other week to other states and doing this, and it wasn't particularly TOing, it was more the gameplay, but it was something that he was really proud of. And it kind of stuck with me, and it just makes me think, like, if you really care about something, if you really care about anything, you should just go for it, because even there's going to be people who fail, and there's going to be people who don't. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail as long as you really went along your journey, and the journey is really the part that matters at the end of the day. So
Thank you so much for your time, Jordan. And now, next episode, I'm going to be interviewing Fever. We briefly mentioned him on this episode. He is our producer, stream guy, all around tech wizard. Thank you so much for tuning in.
All right. Well, for you guys uninitiated, I'm gonna hit the classics. One of my classics.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Where are my manners? Is there anything you would like to plug?
Tempest FGC on Twitter. Come to Iron Grid. This is Iron Grid Tempest. I'm signing off.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next episode.